The Black Monk of Pontefract, UK, the very beginning. So it's August of 1966, and the Pritchard family had just moved into their new family home, a nice little semi-detached house on the Quarterfield Council estate in East Yorkshire. The house was built right where hundreds of people came to their deaths many years before at the top of the hill, which was once the town's gallows. They'd only been living there for a few days when the first creepy occurrence happened. Jean, Jo and Diana had gone away for the August bank holiday weekend, but Philip stayed at home in the care of his grandmother Sarah. This weekend was a hot one, very still and with no wind. Even with the windows and doors open, there was no respite from the humidity. Sarah was in the house and throughout the day kept feeling a cold wind brushing past her, and when Philip returned home, he walked in and saw a soft white chalk-like substance fall from the ceiling and cover the living room carpet. Paranormal activity was the furthest thing from the grandmother and Philip's minds, but they were still baffled into where the chalk and wind had come from. Sarah asked her daughter Mary, who lived just across the road, to come over to the house to see if she could make any sense of what the white powder was. As Mary went to go into the kitchen to get the cleaning equipment to clean up the powder, she opened the door and slipped on the floor. A big puddle of water was laying in the middle of the floor. Enid Pritchard, one of the neighbours, heard some commotion coming from number 30, so went round to see if everything was okay. Thinking there may be a water leak, she turned off the water at the cock. Over the course of the day, white flakes fell and water puddles appeared from nowhere. There was no evident water leaks and the white powder continued to fall from space. They reported the water to the company and they suspected they had a leak, and someone was sent out that afternoon to investigate. He'd done all the usual checks and couldn't find a water leak and put the puddles of appearing water down to condensation. Soon after, the puddles of water stopped appearing. It was early evening and Sarah was settling down in front of the TV when Philip started shouting from the kitchen that it was happening again. Sarah jumped up to see what was happening. She couldn't believe her eyes at the sight of the kitchen. Only moments before it was clean and tidy. Now, though, it was a complete mess. The worktops had tea leaves and sugar all over them. They both stared in disbelief, and as they did, they witnessed the tea dispensing button being pushed in and out, and watched as more and more tea leaves were being released onto the countertop until it was empty, but the button didn't stop being pushed. Sarah, now starting to feel scared, started shouting at it to stop, but it didn't. There was a big loud bang that came from the hallway. They quickly went to see who or what made the bang. There was nothing but empty silence and darkness. That isn't until the light switch on the wall came on by itself. Both now feeling a bit on edge, went to the bottom of the stairs and again were left in disbelief. There, halfway up the stairs, stood a plant. That is usually by the front door of the house, and if that wasn't strange enough, the pot which it sits in was at the top of the stairs. Feeling pretty scared now, but soon to be made even more so. Still standing confused at the bottom of the stairs, they then heard more weird noises coming from the kitchen. As they crept up to the doorway to see what was happening, now they were greeted with a violently shaking crockery cupboard. Philip, being brave, went up the cupboard and flung the doors open and the shaking just stopped. But as it stopped, bang! There was another loud bang which came from another room. The grandmother then felt the cold air that she felt earlier on in the day and was feeling pretty petrified now. She rushed over to get Mary again, and as soon as they entered the kitchen, the crockery cupboard once again started to violently shake. Unable to believe what she was seeing, Mary went to the adjoining neighbour, Mr. and Miss Mountain, to ask if they were responsible for the banging against the kitchen walls. Their reply was, "We thought it was you." Things calmed down, and Sarah, Philip and Mary talked about what they had all witnessed throughout the day and evening, and none of them could come up with an explanation. It had been an eventful day to say the least, and Philip took himself up to bed. Before Sarah retired herself for the night, she went in to check on Philip to make sure he was okay and yet again scared out of her wits. As she entered his room, the big heavy drawers started to move and shake. That was it. She got herself and Philip out of there pretty swiftly. Fearing for their lives, they took refuge at a neighbouring friend's. Joe, Jean and Diana returned home from their holiday and was told all about the creepy events that had happened. But with nothing else occurring over the following weeks, they were a little skeptical. For the next 2 years, the family lived in peace. That is until one day, out of the blue, this poltergeist wanted to play again. And play it did. This time, however, it wasn't just for the day. This time it stayed around, provoked and scared the Pritchard family for the next 7 years. Over the following 7 years, poor Diana seemed to get the brunt of it. On many occasions, she would be asleep in her bed only to be thrown, pushed, or dragged out of it to the other side of her room. Her hair would get tugged and her bedding yanked off. She was even dragged by her throat backwards up the stairs. But Diana wasn't the only one this poltergeist got physical with. Some people, including friends and visitors of the family, got slapped, others got pushed, some got scratched, and even strangled. But no matter how violent this entity got, the Pritchards refused to be driven out of their home. Instead, they tried to drive it out. They had not one, but 2 exorcisms performed by the church, and on both attempts, the poltergeist was having none of it. Not only did this poltergeist not go, but it ramped up its hauntings. Heavy furniture would rattle and move from room to room, all manner of objects would come out of the blue, flying through the air, pictures would turn themselves upside down and back to front, and family photographs were continuously being slashed. Loud banging would go on through the night, even weird farmyard sounds were bizarrely heard, and the dark stomach-curdling stenches are just a few of the horrific occurrences this family went through. As the years went on and the poltergeist activity became more and more irrational and frightening, a friend of the family feared for their lives and thought they would take measures into their own hands. They gathered holy water from the local church and soaked every part of the house in hope that this would drive out the poltergeist. It did not. Instead, upside-down crucifixes appeared all over the walls and doors, and the terrifying haunting continued. Over the whole of the 7 years, this entity always remained invisible to the eye. That is, until one night. Jean and Joe were in bed, and standing in their room, right by the bed, was a big, dark, shadowy figure. It appeared to be wearing a monk's cloak, and shading its face. They continued to see the Black Monk of Pontefract, as it is now known, on and off for a short while, and still the paranormal activity continued. Then nothing. Just as it started, it stopped. Not a single bang or flying plate or gruesome smell. Diana even managed to sleep undisturbed in her bed at night. So where did this poltergeist go after haunting the Pritchard family continuously for 7 years? Did it get bored? Apparently not. Soon after the hauntings had stopped, the family decided it was time to move out of the home after all. But the house was now a hotspot for paranormal and ghost investigation teams, and it seemed that this monk hadn't moved on at all. Hey guys, Selina here. Thank you for listening. I would be so interested to know what you have to say about this story. Let me know down in the comments. Leave a like if you thought this story was interesting. And as usual, don't let life hit you on the way out. Bye!
Where's my safe zone? Someone tell me right now.
Not here.
Just keep on running.